Welcome to this video which gives my top tips for overcoming 5 common issues that piano students face. These include not having enough time to practice or frustrated with lack of progress, struggling with left hand or if you have arthritis or other dexterity issues, struggling with hand coordination, struggling to read sheet music or have low sight, or you find that your playing just doesn't sound smooth or nice. This video is suitable for anyone who is learning to play piano or electronic keyboard, and it's aimed at learning songs or simple classical music, but not complex classical music. You don't need a piano or a keyboard with you right now. This video will show you the knowledge that you will need to overcome these issues, so it just gets you faster to having fun when you're learning piano. I'll also include a few tips on using auto-accompaniment and the pedal. Now, I'm going to cover a lot of ground in this video, but don't worry if you can't take it all in. Just focus on whichever area is the most useful to you at this moment in time. If you haven't already seen the first video in the series, then I recommend that you watch that video before continuing with this one. Here's a quick overview of the key points from the first video. The easiest way for beginners to play is with the melody in the right hand and the chords in the left hand. And it's easier to read song sheets which use numbers instead of using notation or chord letters. If you don't have enough time to practice or you're frustrated with your lack of progress, then the secret to getting amazing results in just 15 minutes per day, as little as 4 days per week, is 2 things. First of all, using the numbers and chords method as I outlined in my first video. So this is where you use a lead sheet with the melody in the right hand and chords in the left hand. Using the numbers form of lead sheet makes it even easier. So that's the first thing. The second thing is to apply the 3S practice process. So the 3 S's are take it really slow, small sections and with separate hands. So what you would do, for example, start off with the right hand on its own, take a really small section of music, maybe even half of one line, and play it really slowly. If you struggle with that, slow it down more and do an even smaller section, and then you repeat that until you're comfortable with it. Then you do the same with the left hand, then you join hands just on that little section, and then you repeat that until you are fairly confident with it before moving on to the next section, and then you repeat the same process again for the next section, and when that is ready you join the 2. So you work through a piece of music in those small little sections and you take it as slow as you need to. Now, I can't overstate the importance of slow and small sections enough. Those things alone fix most problems. If you struggle with your left hand, or if you have arthritis or dexterity issues, there are usually 2 reasons for this. One is that sometimes people struggle reading the left hand part. When using traditional sheet music, otherwise known as notation, many people struggle reading the left hand part, which is usually in the bass clef, as the lines and the spaces in the bass clef relate to different notes than the treble clef, which can be a bit confusing. As you often have to read multiple notes at the same time, this can be quite a challenge. So the solution, as I mentioned in my first video, is to use a lead sheet, which enables you to play the melody in the right hand and the chords in the left hand. Lead sheets make playing the left hand music much easier to read than notation, as they replace several dots in notation with a single chord. either using letters or numbers. Standard lead sheets have the melody in notation and the chords using letters. An alternative version, which many students find even easier, is the style of lead sheet called piano tabs, which uses numbers for both the melody and the chords. It's much easier to read music that uses chords, as one chord represents several notes, so there's much less information to read. If your problem is playing the left hand, well, it's much easier to play the left hand part using chords rather than individual notes, as you don't have to think of the 3 separate notes within the chord, just the starting note, and then apply the chord pattern. So for example, Amazing Grace, if we're thinking of the chords in numbers, then we play chord 1. So we start on note 1, we apply the pattern, and then chord 3, chord 4, chord 1. So all we're doing is thinking of the pattern and then just looking at which note we start on. So it's very quick to actually move in between different chords. There's also flexibility in fingering. So if you can't use fingers 4 and 5, for example, then you could play the same chord with your thumb, index finger and middle finger. Different playing patterns let you choose the most comfortable for your hand and enable you to play different styles. For example, chords played at the same time, broken chord style with the notes played individually, or other styles which use octaves, such as if you struggle with chords, you can reduce the number of notes played. So you don't have to play all 3 notes. You could play, for example, just 2 of the notes. So if you're playing just the bottom 2, or you could even just play the bottom note. You can also use auto-accompaniment if your keyboard has this feature. So this is where you play the chord just using one finger for major chords. And then often, if you want to play a minor chord, it would involve playing 2 fingers. So this makes it much easier to play the accompaniment without playing the full chord shape. If you struggle with hand coordination, then a couple of tips would be just realise that there's only 3 things which you need to practice. Both hands played at the same time, the right hand on its own, and the left hand on its own. So once you master those 3 things, then it makes hand coordination much easier. So there are some exercises which you can do. I've done separate videos on this, but a little example is what you can do is just take a tiny section from the song which you are learning and just notice when the hands are played at the same time and when they are played individually, and just repeat a small section of this. For example, if you were learning Danny Boy, okay, so we would start off, so that's both hands, and then left hand on its own, and then right hand on its own. So if we just stop there, just that section alone that encompasses those three separate things. So you got right hand on its own, then you got both, and then left hand on its own, right hand on its own, and then both. So if you were just to practice that bit alone, as slow as you need to, that will help with your coordination. If you struggle reading sheet music or have low sight, then my top 3 tips would be, first of all, to use lead sheets as they're much easier to read than notation. And of these, the piano tabs style of lead sheet is easier than the standard style. This also lets you enlarge the sheets so you can have a much larger font. The second thing is to increase the amount of light on the sheet. So this could be a table lamp, it could be a light that clips on the music stand, or it could be a light box which illuminates the sheet from behind. A third tip is to memorize all or part of a song. When you are memorizing a song, often the left-hand part is the easiest to memorize, and this is because many songs use a very small amount of chords, often 6 chords or less. And it's easy to see the chord pattern in the song sheets. When you can memorize the left hand, this saves you then reading a lot more information on the page, and it also lets you concentrate on just reading the right hand part. Of course, if you're able then to memorize the right hand part as well, then you don't have to look at any sheet music at all, and that is the ideal situation because it lets you play impromptu performances on other people's pianos and you don't have to bring any sheet music with you. The left-hand chords are easy to memorize. For example, the main theme of Beethoven's Ode to Joy uses just 3 chords, chords 1, 4 and 5. And you can easily see the repeating chord pattern on the piano tabs lead sheet. If your playing doesn't sound smooth or nice in your opinion, then I've got 3 tips for that. The first is to use the 3S practice process that I mentioned earlier. So this is take it really slow, small sections, separate hands. The second tip is to keep a constant beat through the music. So this is like a pulse through the music. I don't recommend students count the actual numbers unless they absolutely need to, such as 1, 2, 3, 4. Most students don't need to be counting the numbers, but if you just think of the beat, going at a constant like beat, 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 and then that will keep your music sounding more musical. The third tip is to use the pedal. Now, once you have mastered the basics of the melody and the chords for a song, then you could try to introduce the pedal, and there's a very simple technique that applies to virtually every song. So this technique is you hold down the pedal, you play a chord, and as soon as you play the chord, you lift up the pedal and put it straight back down again. So it's chord, pedal up, down, and hold the pedal down, and that holds the notes. So that makes the music smoother. So I'll show you just with the left hand here. So chord up, down, chord up, down, chord up, down, chord up, down. Okay, here's with no pedal, just to show you what that sounds like, and I will leave slightly larger gaps than is ideal just to show you the effect. So no pedal first. And here is with the pedal. Hope you found this video useful. For more information on using the range of DecPlay methods and for a free starter pack, go to decplay.com/pianist. In the next video in this series, I will cover top tips on a quick way to go from beginner to advanced level playing, the keys to unlocking different playing styles, and my favourite piano skills, improvising, transposing, and best of all, playing by ear. This is what can help you play with freedom and confidence, and it's amazing fun at parties because you can just play piano for sing-alongs without needing any sheet music at all. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.